Clack, clack, clack. Clack, clack, clack. I can't play action games. I'm not for them, they're not for me. I don't remember how to play this game at all. Oh, I don't have a gun. Oh my gosh, he's still alive. Oh wait, no, is he dead? What the crap just happened? Oh my gosh!
Mission in Section F.
What the crap? Oh my gosh! Oh jeez! I didn't know that was gonna bother you so much. It's because I killed your boyfriend, huh? That feels good. That is fun. I'm lacking some serious brain functionality. Alright, well, my editing skills are crap, but can the same thing be said about Incredibles 2? Stick around and find out. I can't really remember how it goes, but anyway, hi, I'm Peter Franson from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions, here with my uncut review of Incredibles 2. I think they removed the "the." Wasn't the first one called The Incredibles? And they just ditched the "the," added the "2." Here we go. The synopsis on IMDb, very short, reads, Bob Parr, Mr. Incredible, is left to take care for the kids, I think they mean of the kids, while Helen, Elastigirl, is out saving the world. So I'll try to elaborate just a little bit on that. It takes place right on the heels of the first Incredibles movie, even though it's been like 14 years since that movie came out. There's even kind of an apology from the voice cast at the beginning, like, we know it's been a long time, sorry, thanks for your patience, we hope you enjoy, and then they show the movie, you know. But anyway, it's right on the heels of that, and supers are still illegal, but there's like this big corporation that it's a sibling, it's a man and a woman, grown, you know, adults, who their parents died as a result of superheroes being outlawed, and so they want to help change the PR for the better for supers, and they think that Elastigirl is the best way to do that. So they're basically funding her, providing income for the Parr family, while Elastigirl, at least to start, goes out there and starts, you know, being publicized and puts a good face on supers, and then, provided that's successful, they'll bring Mr. Incredible back and all these other superheroes, and, you know, and then, you know, this PR campaign will be a success, and they will change the law so that supers can be legal again. So that's kind of like the basic premise of it. While she's out fighting crime and this new menace that has showed up, Bob Parr, Mr. Incredible, has to stay home because he's kind of a PR nightmare. So he's going to stay home instead and take care of the kids, you know. As far as the story, the script, the pacing, and just the general tone, this is very similar to the first movie and to many Pixar movies. It's a light comedy adventure with layers of humor built in, both for the child audience and for the adults that will be accompanying them or going out and seeing the movie by themselves. The first movie I watched before, let's see, this would have been 14 years ago, so yeah, my oldest is like only 10, so I saw it well before I had kids, and I, you know, really enjoyed it. And this time I saw it with two boys in tow, a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old. So it was a bit of a different experience, but even rewatching the first one over the years has been a different experience, you know, being as I became a dad myself. But anyway, there's plenty of action, plenty of visual gags that result from creative use of powers that just come in fast succession compared to many live-action superhero movies. I'll comment on that again in a little bit. It also has heart and uses these over-the-top superhero situations to parallel very common issues related to being part of a young family. And the first movie did that as well. So if you really appreciated that about how the script was written and the themes in the first one, you're going to get that same kind of treatment in the script for this one. The story, though, was a little disappointing to me, as it didn't continue to kind of poke fun of superhero tropes to the degree that the first movie did. We've had so many superhero movies since that first Incredibles movie came out. There are lots of tropes that they could have, you know, new things that they could have kind of poked fun at in the same way that they poked fun at tropes of the superhero genre with the first movie. And then they also leaned heavily again on the backdrop of supers being illegal. I would be interested in seeing them have some other kind of like have a status quo change, and that would have them dealing with something different than the usual kind of PR stuff that they were, I think, kind of dealing with in the first movie. And they even copied and pasted what I would say is a major structural element, I don't want to be more specific, from the plot of the first movie. And I'm not going to say any more because I don't want to spoil anything. But it was just odd, In this way, the script to me felt like the kind of sequel that would be quickly generated to just get another movie in the franchise out the door on the heels of the first one's success. But it's been well over a decade since the last movie, and so it was strange to see this type of script be the result of that time, that kind of delay. My personal preference would have been a movie that makes good on the tease at the end of the first Incredibles movie, where you see the whole family posed together, ready to do, superhero do-goodery, all fighting crime together. And instead, this story largely puts mom and dad in different locations for most of the movie, and also segments the kids spatially from both parents a lot as well. So that was a little bit disappointing to me. But the movie still had me loving these well-developed characters for all their unique personalities and quirks. It was great to see them again and just kind of watch their lives continue. Talking briefly about the cast, the returning core cast are all the same, except for the new child actor that's voicing Dash, which I thought was like a really shockingly good sound-alike to the original actor, who would be much too old now to voice the same part again. They even seem to have used alternate takes or cutting room floor material from the original baby who voiced Jack Jack in the first movie, because the same actor is credited, but when you go to his IMDb page, he looks like he's, about 14 or 15 years old. Craig T. Nelson, who plays Mr. Incredible, and Holly Hunter, who does the voice of Elastigirl, both sounded just a tad older on a few lines, but not so much that it took away from their great performances once again in this movie. And Samuel L. Jackson is Samuel L. Jackson. He does a great job with that. The rest of the cast is, as solid as I would expect for a Pixar movie. Just commenting briefly again on the stunts and visuals, there's such fun and creative use of powers in this movie, unlike many live-action movies that sometimes even seem kind of overly proud of their effects and want you to have plenty of time to kind of soak them in. This movie sometimes seemed to dare me to keep up with the fast and furious onslaught of sight gags and super-powered fight choreography. I mean, it was a visual treat that I think I'll be sure to be able to appreciate through multiple viewings. I'll probably just catch a little bit more every time, even when the story, fails to surprise or pull me in on repeat viewings. As far as, relevance, is there anything of moral, philosophical, or spiritual significance going on in the theming of this story that would maybe stimulate worthwhile thought or conversation? Well, two moments stand out to me. The first one is there's a scene in which, I'll be vague, a villain tells a hero, "If it weren't for your core values, we might have been friends," to which the hero replies, "At least I have core values." And I think this is an example of a writer wanting to affirm objective moral values. He wants weight to that idea of core values. But I suspect the writer, maybe realized, consciously or not, that they can't go any further than that without identifying a basis for them. So in trying to say something, but unable to commit to saying more than core values, they end up saying almost nothing, because of course the villain also has some core values that they hold to. It's not very heroic for a hero to say, "At least I have core values." Well, everybody has core values unless you are rolling the dice and just making decisions randomly. What I think that the writer's wanting to say is that the hero has morally superior core values to the villain's inferior core values. But nobody wants to say that one person's values are superior or inferior to another, and so we get what is ultimately a substance exchange that's trying for substance but unwilling ultimately to commit to saying something of substance. It reminds me of when people uphold the value of faith, having faith, and uphold the value of being spiritual, but without specifying what one should have faith in, or in what way someone should be quote-unquote spiritual. A person can have faith in some very harmful ideas, as we frequently see in the news. Likewise, the villain in this story has some strong and self-serving core values. They were not acting at random, but were acting based on their strongly held core values and core beliefs. Faith, belief, spirituality, and core values are not in themselves necessarily good. When we hear them being treated this way, I think that's an opportunity to gently ask a clarifying question or two so that beliefs can actually be clearly put on the table and then possibly examined or talked about further. The second moment that stood out in this movie was, by contrast, affirming something I think is really good. When Mr. Incredible has to stay home and take care of the kids for an extended period, he ultimately becomes overwhelmed at that role. At first, he does a lot of kind of self-justifying in comedic ways, but in the end, he just has this moment, this valley of confession in brokenness that he has just made a mess of things. He wants to be a good dad. He says that, but he's blowing it or falling short in so many respects, and he acknowledges that too, and he's just at a loss. And it's in that moment of confession that the one he has wronged actually comes to have the most respect and affection for him. This is a great model for all of us, whether we're parents or not. As much as we can stay in that mode of confession, it will ultimately be better for us and for those around us. Trying to convince ourselves and others that we're doing pretty well and mostly have it all together, it's just a lie, or it's an ignorance of truth that comes from a lack of really looking closely at ourselves, and it just keeps us from growing and may even result in us self-destructing ultimately. I had a moment similar to Mr. Incredible's moment a few years ago. My boys were younger and much harder to care for. I needed to step up in ways that would hurt, that would be very taxing and trying for me, but I told myself for a while, in order to avoid stepping up like that, I was doing better. Well, I was doing better than so-and-so in my mind. I didn't say these things out loud. I just I'm doing better than so-and-so. And what more should really my wife expect, or whoever expect? How much more should my boys expect? They have it so much better than blah, 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 But then I hit this breaking point when I saw how I was hurting my wife. And I took a hard look at myself, compared not just to some other parent that I could conveniently cherry pick and favorably compare myself to, but I compared myself to the perfection of Jesus. And I chose to just face the reality of that comparison and trust God to catch me, as he's promised to, in those moments, in this net of his tireless forgiveness and mercy. It was like a dam broke, and I saw a whole lot of my own ugliness that I hadn't faced up to before. But hot on the heels of that was this huge burden that was lifted. The perfect and righteous track record that God demands of his children is impossible for us to achieve, but it's also been earned for us and applied to our account by Jesus. So more than anyone else, we as believers in Jesus should feel the freedom, the readiness to take a hard look at our hearts and lives, compared not to some convenient example we want to pick, but compared to the perfection of Jesus. And then seeing our own ugliness, consider what next step God is calling us to, while at the same time not being defeated by our brokenness and our failures and our selfishness, because that is forgiven, that is paid for. And we have the promise that after this life, God is going to fix once and for all that brokenness in us. So I think a lot of people, when faced with the idea of taking a hard look at themselves, they have to comfort themselves by lowering the bar somehow and favorably comparing themselves to some lower standard than perfection. And then they're going to find a point where they have no more reason to grow anywhere, because they'll meet whatever standard they've decided they are going to hold themselves to and not need to go any further than that. So they're going to stop growing. But we as believers in Jesus have this model of perfection that we can always be moving toward. And at the same time, that the fact that it's a perfect model doesn't have to be discouraging and this thing that beats us down, because we have the safety net of the forgiveness, the grace, the tireless mercy of Jesus that wipes clean our record and applies his righteousness in its place. Anyway, those are my thoughts for now. I have no idea what your preferences or whatever tastes are in movies. But if I were a time traveler, I would probably go back in time and say, Pater, you know, if it was just you, you could just Redbox it sometime. But you got 2 boys, and they're going to love this. So go see it with them and your wife. You're going to have fun with them. You're going to have like some knowing leg squeezes between you and your wife as you think about comparisons, you know, and you see yourselves in the movie, and you'll enjoy your boys enjoying this movie. And, you know, while it's not going to do all the things you'd like it to, it's still going to be a movie you're really going to enjoy watching with your wife and your 2 boys. It's rated PG for action sequences and some brief, mild language. Those are my thoughts. I would love to get yours in the comments below. Please like, share, subscribe, and click that little bell icon so you don't miss any more videos. And then I hope you'll join us soon over at christiangeekcentral.com. I don't have this button ready, as we continue to geek out and seek the truth.
Let's begin.
Burn, ungodly filth!
What do you want? To make you ours or to make you despair?
Spirit Blade Productions presents...
Do you have any idea how much I will make you suffer? The horrific agony that I will inflict.
Spirit Blade, Dark Ritual.
Hell will be a refuge for you when I'm finished.
For more information, visit spiritblade.com.